In July 1960, golf was on the absolute verge of history. Arnold Palmer, the charismatic, undisputed king of the sport, arrived at St. Andrews having already conquered the Masters and the United States Open. He was chasing something no man had ever achieved in a single year, the modern Grand Slam. American media had descended on Scotland in force. Arnie's army was roaring across the fairways, and Palmer's crowning moment seemed almost preordained. But sports history rarely follows a script. Standing between golf's biggest icon and eternal glory was not an established superstar, but a quiet 39-year-old Australian club professional who had never recorded a single top 10 finish in a major tournament. His name was Kel Nagle, and over 4 relentless days at the birthplace of golf, he would pull off one of the most stunning upsets the sport has ever seen. To truly understand the magnitude of what unfolded in Scotland that summer, you have to appreciate the sheer cultural force of Arnold Palmer in 1960. Palmer was not simply winning golf tournaments, he was transforming the game into a global television spectacle. With his aggressive style of play, his famous hitch of the trousers, and an aura of pure magnetism, he had captured the imagination of millions. As Open, Palmer set his sights on the Open Championship at St. Andrews. At the time, top American stars rarely made the long transatlantic journey to play in the Open. The travel was exhausting, the prize money was modest compared to American purses, and the harsh links weather was notoriously unpredictable. But Palmer understood history. He wanted all 4 major trophies in a single calendar year. His decision to cross the Atlantic single-handedly revived global prestige in the Open Championship, transforming the 1960 tournament into a monumental sporting event. It was the centenary edition of the tournament, played on golf's most sacred ground, the old course at St. Andrews. The stage was set for golf royalty to be crowned. Yet while the world's eyes were fixed entirely on Palmer, Kel Nagle quietly went about his work. Born in North Sydney in 1920, Nagle was the exact opposite of a glamorous athletic superstar. His early golf career had been interrupted by the Second World War, during which he served in the Australian Army in the Pacific Theater. When he returned home, he did not immediately set out to tour the globe. Instead, he worked as a traditional club professional, teaching members, repairing equipment, and playing local Australian tournaments when time allowed. Nagle was not a long hitter off the tee, nor did he possess an exuberant personality designed for headlines. What he possessed instead was an unshakable temperament, ironclad mental discipline, and a putter that was practically lethal. Across Australia and New Zealand, fellow professionals held his short game in awe, earning him deep respect on the local circuit. But on the global stage, he was virtually unknown. At 39 years old, an age when many players' peak athletic years were behind them, Nagle had rarely competed in international majors and had never once cracked the top 10. To the international press covering St. Andrews, he was simply an experienced veteran filling out the field. The tournament opened under classic Scottish conditions: firm, bouncing turf, hidden pot bunkers, and howling winds sweeping off the Firth of Forth. From his very first hole, Nagle played with remarkable composure. While other players tried to overpower the old course, Nagle treated St. Andrews with deep strategic reverence. He plodded his way around the hazards, placing his ball precisely where it needed to be, and rolling in putt after putt on the massive double greens. He opened with a solid 69, followed by a brilliant 67 in the second round. While the press waited for the veteran Australian to fade under the pressure, Nagle quietly took control of the leaderboard. Palmer, meanwhile, was lurking right behind, recovering from a slow start with a blistering second-round 67 of his own. By the end of the third round, the narrative had reached a boiling point. Nagle held a slender lead, but Arnold Palmer was positioned just 2 strokes back. The entire sporting world held its breath. The storyline seemed clear. The unstoppable American powerhouse was ready to run down the unassuming Australian over the final 18 holes. If you're enjoying this deep dive into golf's greatest forgotten triumphs, take a quick second to hit the subscribe button. We bring you the incredible stories, tactical battles, and legendary figures that built sports history, and subscribing ensures you won't miss our next story. Now, let's return to that dramatic final afternoon at St. Andrews. The final day presented a mental test unlike any other. Severe rain and stormy weather had disrupted play, forcing a delayed finish on Saturday afternoon. Thousands of spectators flooded the old course, the vast majority joining Arnie's army, cheering every swing and stride of the American champion. The tension hanging over the fairways was suffocating. Playing ahead of Palmer, Nagle knew that every single mistake would be punished. Every time a massive roar echoed across the links from Palmer's group behind him, Nagle knew his lead was under direct assault. But rather than rushing or showing anxiety, the Australian slowed his rhythm down even further. He walked with a calm, deliberate pace, methodically reading every approach shot and trusting his stroke on the greens. As they entered the treacherous back nine, Palmer mounted his trademark charge. Down by 4 shots at one point, Palmer began firing at pins, sinking crucial putts and whipping the Scottish crowd into a frenzy. When Palmer birdied the 13th, the gap shrank. When he hit another magnificent approach on the 15th, the pressure on Nagle intensified to an agonizing level. The defining moment arrived at the infamous 17th hole, the road hole, widely considered one of the most perilous holes in world golf. With the green guarded by the terrifying road bunker in front and a paved road and stone wall waiting directly behind, a single misstep could destroy a lead in seconds. Nagle stood on the 17th fairway with his heart pounding, well aware that Palmer was roaring behind him. Instead of playing conservatively out of fear or aggressively out of panic, Nagle struck a clean, precise iron shot to the green, leaving himself a tricky putt across the undulating turf. With absolute composure, he stepped up and rolled in a crucial putt to save par, keeping his slender lead intact as he walked to the final tee. Minutes later, Palmer stepped onto the 18th tee, needing a birdie to force a playoff. In true champion fashion, Palmer struck a long drive down the fairway and knocked his approach shot close to the pin. The crowd erupted, sensing a dramatic comeback. Palmer coolly sank his birdie putt to finish at 9 under par, setting the clubhouse target at 279. The entire outcome now rested on Kel Nagle's shoulders. Standing on the 18th fairway, Nagle needed a simple par to secure the championship. But simple pars at St. Andrews under the weight of history are anything but easy. A single nervous twitch, a 3-putt on the massive 18 green, would hand momentum back to Palmer. Nagle pitched his ball safely onto the green. He walked up to his ball, lined up his line, and struck a smooth putt that glided across the turf, leaving him a short tap-in. With total serenity, he tapped the ball into the cup to finish at 10 under par, 278, defeating Arnold Palmer by a single stroke. At 39 years of age, Kel Nagle had accomplished what many thought impossible. He had conquered the old course, lifted the iconic claret jug, and derailed Arnold Palmer's historic Grand Slam bid. Yet what makes Kel Nagle's story truly extraordinary is that this victory was no fluke or temporary stroke of luck. While many unexpected major winners fade back into obscurity, Nagle used his St. Andrews triumph as a catalyst for a magnificent second act in his career. He proved to the world that his win over Palmer was grounded in world-class skill and enduring resilience. Over the next decade, Nagle became an international powerhouse, accumulating an astonishing total of 83 professional victories around the world. He remained a constant contender at the Open Championship for years, racking up 6 more top 10 finishes. In 1965, at 44 years old, he battled Gary Player in a grueling 18-hole playoff at the United States Open, coming within a hair's breadth of winning a second major title. When Kel Nagle was inducted into the World Golf Hall of Fame in 2007, it was not merely for stopping Arnold Palmer in 1960. It was for a lifetime of excellence, quiet dignity, and supreme mastery of the game. The 1960 Open Championship is often remembered as the spark that reignited global passion for international golf, but history will always remember the humble Australian who stood his ground when the spotlight was brightest. Kel Nagle did not have a flashy nickname or a boisterous fan club. What he had was unflinching courage, world-class skill with a putter, and the calm resolve to beat the greatest player on earth on golf's ultimate stage. He proved that quiet precision and steady composure can conquer even the most unstoppable forces in sports